Welcome back to Millennial Diligence. I'm your host, Tom. I think as millennials, when we first came out of college, we had a tendency to think we had it really tough. We were coming out of basically one of the worst financial meltdowns in history. I mean, I graduated in 2011, so we were still kind of right in the middle, or maybe starting to come out of the great financial collapse of 2008. But I look back on that time like, okay, well, it could have been worse. At least I did find a job out of college, so that was good. I did find full-time work. It turns out Gen Z is having a much harder time finding work right out of college, and that is evidenced by this Fortune article that we're going to go over today. It's an article by Emma Burley on Fortune, and it says Gen Z is right about the job hunt. It really is worse than it was for millennials, with nearly 60% of fresh-faced grads frozen out of the workforce. Now, there are some qualifiers to this article. When they talk about frozen out of the workforce, they mean frozen out of full-time work. So you do find a lot of Gen Z and millennials doing gig work, but a lot of times that's not going to come with any kind of benefits or anything like that. So when she, and we go over this later in the article, when she talks about being frozen out of the workforce, she means full-time employment. So let's take a look at this article. It's a pretty good article. It has a lot of interesting links that I'll link in the description. But yeah, Gen Z's suspicion that the job hunt is harder than ever may be true. About 58% of recent grads are still looking for full-time work. 58%. Compared to 25% of earlier graduates like millennials, Gen Xers, and baby boomers before them. Young job hunters are also 3 times less likely to have a job lined up out of school. As AI agents take over and entry-level roles are shrinking for Gen Z workers. So that's a big one right there. So I look back on when I graduated, so many of the jobs that were available to grads of my age were like clerks, like jobs that involve typing and answering phones. And we're heading into the stark reality where so many things can be handled by AI, and so many things are going to be handled by AI just because they're cheaper. Maybe they're not even as effective as actually having a person on the other line, but they're much cheaper and they can be scaled. We're going to see that eat into the job availability. So things have definitely changed. 58% of students who graduate within the last year are still looking for their first job. Like, that's such a huge issue when you put it in the context. Okay, so you just graduated college. You'll more than likely have a bunch of student loans. As we've seen, this administration is not going to go easy on anyone who has student loans. There's not going to be any forgiveness. They are going so hard in the paint. You're not going to be able to just skirt these loans. You might be able to get a deferment for a little while, but they're going to get you. You cannot escape your student loans. And if you can't find a job out of school and get past that, the grace period for me, I think, was 6 months. So after I finished school, I had about a 6-month grace period where I didn't have to start paying back any of my loans. But once those payments started, it was a situation where, okay, I'm not getting out of this. It's like you're on the hook for that money. So that's kind of a perfect storm where 3 out of 5 students that are part of Gen Z can't find a full-time job right out of school. The clock's ticking before they're going to start paying back. This goes hand in hand with kids that are moving right back in with their parents. If you can't find a job and you're already in, $10, $20, $30, $40,000 in debt, your options are so limited that you're going to be squeezed on both ends, on the debt end and being unable to support yourself, basically. So it's like, it's such a problem, and I don't think people are realizing, they don't realize the squeeze that Gen Z is being put under. They just think they're lazy and they're not focused and stuff like that. But I don't think it's that case at all. I think there's a tightening job market, and it's all being exacerbated by AI, like AI, large language. And they say AI for everything, but I mean large language models, voice recognition technology, basically virtual assistants. Like those are the big thing right now, virtual assistants. And if you can do a virtual assistant, you can basically do a secretary as well, or a chat, but basically very sophisticated chatbots. If you can do that, you don't really need as many workers. You still might need some, but you're not going to need nearly as many. Nearly 40% of previous graduates managed to secure full-time work for the first time in time for their graduation ceremony. but just 12 of recent Gen Z grads can say the same. So, like, only 12% of Gen Z grads have a job lined up out of school. That's like ridiculous. That is like that's a terrifying statistic. Whereas previous generations averaged out to about 40. I had a job lined up out of school. Mind you, I had to move cross country for it, but I had something lined up. Everyone that I graduated with basically had something lined up, and that was the middle of the, like I said, we were in the middle of the financial collapse. So that's how bad things were then, and people still had some work lined up. Maybe not an awesome job, but a foot in the door, basically. The journey from classroom to career has never been straightforward, researchers wrote, but it's clear that today's grads are entering a job market that's more uncertain, more digital, and arguably more demanding than ever. I would agree with that. I think that you graduate now, the pressure is so high and the competition is so high that you're going to have to get really creative. And we've done videos about this before where it's so difficult to carve out a niche in terms of a 9-to-5 full-time job that you're going to have to get creative and maybe even start your own business. And that sounds daunting. I mean, I've never started my own business, but the option is getting more and more appealing as I get older, as I get more skills, as I kind of see the lay of the land. But I think Gen Z, as much as I thought that the traditional 9-to-5, work life for millennials was not sustainable, and I think that's true now, I think it's even worse for Gen Z with the rise of AI and the gig economy. Oh my God, the gig economy. Like that's just we're just so cooked, to use a Gen Z phrase. Today's young job seekers are up against AI agents in a tightening blue-collar market to the point where they're handing in donuts and waitressing to try and jumpstart their careers in conventional ways. So that's the whole thing. Like, and I know that Gen Z is going to get sick of this too. That's why I would advise them to just sidestep the whole thing, the whole traditional full-time work life whole paradigm, because the way things are going now, you're just going to have to jump through more and more hoops. You're just going to have to you're going to have to do more things that are out of the ordinary, to think out the box, to set yourself apart from everyone else that has a degree. So many people have degrees. We millennials found this too. You get out, you're in tons of debt, and everyone you know has a degree. It no longer separates you from the pack, so to speak. Today's tough job market driving 4 million Gen Z into NEET status. That's ridiculous. So if you don't know what a NEET is, it basically stands for not in education, employment, or training. So you're basically completely removed from the workforce. And if this article is to be believed, 4 million Gen Z are they're opting out. They're just opting out. It's no secret that landing a job in today's labor market requires more than a fine-tuned resume and cover letter. Employers are putting new hires through bizarre lunch tests and personality quizzes to even consider them for a role. See what I'm saying about these continual hoops that they're going to make you jump through to, in a weird way, they're almost like, how much punishment can you take and still continue to keep pushing through adversity, even if it's self-made, if it's self-imposed from your company or from your boss? Like, it's just more hoops. More interviews, strange personalities. I haven't even heard of the bizarre lunch test. I mean, what is that? What are these things that these companies are making? If 100 Gen Zers apply for one job, I mean, to what end are all these things being done? No longer, the days are long gone. I mean, they were even gone when I was young, where you walk into a place and hand in your resume to the manager with a firm handshake. Like those are completely gone. And now it's, okay, you're going to go through this obstacle course of just inane BS, and whoever handles it the best, okay, then we're just going to, you're going to get the cookie at the end of the day. It's ridiculous. It's undeniably a tough job market for many white-collar workers. About 20% of job seekers have been searching for work for at least 10 to 12 months. And last year, around 40% of unemployed people said they didn't land a single job interview in 2024. What? 40% of unemployed people said they didn't land a single job interview in 2024. I think that might be the most terrifying stat in this whole article. Like you're putting in, an application a day. That's low. That's low. Like when I was still working, I still put in an application here or there, but at least one a day. You got to put one a day in. But most people, they're putting in 5, 10 a day, I would imagine. If they're seriously looking for work, so you do that for a solid year, and only 40% of those people are getting callbacks, let alone interviews. I mean, I'm not even getting, I don't get callbacks half the time. Here's the second part to that. With young professionals sending in as many as 1,700 applicants to no avail. What? This is terrifying. The advent of AI. I mean, this is just we're getting to that point where there's going to be a tipping point for these AI, these large language model, where so much of this clerical work, so much of this phone answering, so much of this typing, so much of this, frankly, content creation. I mean, graphic design is like, unless you're good, that's going the way of the dodo. Even video production is getting harder. It's getting rougher. So I don't know, with the advent of AI, the hiring process has become an all-out tech battle between managers and applicants. Yeah, just trying to tailor your resume to like hit certain keywords so you'll just even be considered for an interview. This is where we're heading. So if you get so many applicants for one job, that hiring manager or that manager or whoever's in charge of making the final decision or setting up interviews, they can't go through every single resume. So they're going to run it through some automated tool, and it's going to spit out the most qualified candidates. It's really terrible. It's really terrible. Part of this issue may stem from technology whittling down the number of entry-level roles for Gen Z graduates as chatbots and AI agents take over junior staffers' mundane jobs. Companies need fewer staffers to meet their goals. So there you go. They can get the same amount of work done to an adequate standard using chatbots and AI agents as they could as if they paid a human being or multiple human beings to do the same amount of work. The work may be higher in quality if you hire actual people, but a lot of companies they're looking purely at the bottom line. They're saying, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to use chatbots and AI for a fraction of the cost, and we're going to keep the back cheese, and the job is still going to get done okay. People are going to have to kind of work. If you've ever dealt with an AI chatbot, you go nowhere. Eventually, you have to talk to somebody on the phone or something. But it's a situation where they're going to look at the bottom line, and it's so much easier to use an AI agent or a chatbot than to hire some people directly out of college for minimum wage or whatever to answer phones and chat via customer service lines. It just, that's what sucks. And they're only getting more sophisticated. And as these chatbots get more sophisticated, it's going to be harder and harder to compete. You can't compete. It's like the John Henry analogy. It's like you can't keep up with the progress of technology. You just can't. And they don't even want you, because then they have to pay you. Not only do they have to pay you like a salary, they have to pay benefits and all that stuff too. Skyrocketing tuition costs and bleak white-collar job market have made Gen Z situations so bad that 4.3 million young people are now NEETs, like we talked about earlier, not in education, employment, or training. And while things look tough in America, it's becoming an international issue, with the number of NEETs in the UK rising over 100,000 in the past year alone. The age-old promise that a college degree will funnel new graduates into full-time roles has broken. We've based this channel on that notion too, where it's like, just because you got a degree doesn't mean you're going to get a great job. That notion is completely dead now, I think. And I think most of the time, like, there's so much evidence now that we've been through it. We've been through a few generations of this, that it's almost undeniable. But just that figure is staggering. 4.3 million young people they're checked out of the workforce. They're not even trying anymore. They're just like, well, I can't find any work. I put in all these applications. It's ridiculous. It's sad. It's really, I feel bad for Gen Z. You wouldn't think I'd say that, but man, seriously. Universities aren't deliberately setting students up to fail, but the system is failing to deliver on its implicit promise. Lewis Malley, CEO of staffing recruitment agency Bentley Lewis, told Fortune. So it's like, yeah, you kind of have this. There's like this idea where okay, you jump through the hoops, you get a degree, and then you're guaranteed a job. That's kind of the deal that we make as Americans. We're like, okay, I'll do this. I'll jump through all these hoops. Okay, good. I'll get a job. But now that everyone has a degree, you don't stand out as much anymore. That's just full stop. That's one of the things where it's like now when Gen Alpha gets close to going to school, I would almost say think really hard about before going in extreme debt, thinking you're just going to line up this great job, because we can see it was tough on millennials and now it's even harder on Gen Z. I don't think the tide's going to turn for Gen Alpha at all. So it's definitely something to consider. Young people are desperately chasing jobs with donuts and waitressing gigs. I mean, what is this? There's so many bad incentives. Like, you jump through hoops. You already did the biggest hoop jump. You went through school. And like me, if you got a liberal arts degree, you kind of got fleeced. I feel like I had a lot of fun in college, but I didn't learn that much. I sacrificed a lot. My family sacrificed a lot. And it's like, yeah, it sets me apart somewhat, but not to the degree in which society promised. While baby boomers may have chased a job by walking into an office and handing over their resumes directly to a hiring manager, Gen Z are having to get crafty to gain employers' attention. I mean, this is so ridiculous. One young Silicon Valley marketing hopeful, Lucas Ela must be. When he wouldn't get far handing over his cover letter in person, he hatched a plan. When he was 25, the job seeker posed as a delivery driver, handing over boxes of donuts with a secret memo attached on the inside. Man. The note read, "Most resumes end up in the trash. Mine in your belly." Oh, man. Along with his resume and LinkedIn profile, he won over some employers, landing at least 10 interviews from the stunt. So it's a situation where, yeah, you have to get really creative. But why? Why do you have to get so creative to land like a marketing internship or something like that? It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Another Gen Z job seeker took to waitressing at a marketing conference after failing to land a job through traditional methods for 6 months. But Basant Shanuda couldn't find work after graduating from a top university in Germany, so she volunteered to clean up glasses at one of the most well-known marketing and sales events in the country. During her break, she'd float her CV by at least 30 to 40 people asking for feedback but hoping for an opportunity. Shortly thereafter, she landed a job at LinkedIn. By the way, LinkedIn and Indeed are both going through layoffs right now, but that's neither here nor there. When you're a graduate, you think everyone's going to say yes to you, and you think things are going to work out, but it's a matter of building up resilience. You need to keep reassuring your process that no one gets closer to. You need to keep reassessing your process so that every no gets you closer to that next yes. I appreciate the fact that they're getting more and more creative with this. I really do. Like, that's some outside the box thinking. I get that, but to a certain extent, how much of that is just show, and how much is like indicative of the job they're going to do? My issue isn't really with the outside the box thinkers. I think that's good. I'm just thinking of it in terms of a potential financial catastrophe when you have 60% of Gen Z grads can't find full-time work, and their student loans are breathing down their neck, and they're not going to be let off the hook at all. So it's potentially the perfect storm. And I thought it was bad for my generation coming out of the financial collapse 2008. I think it's even worse now. And like we said time and time again, this AI thing is going to displace so many people. It's going to be in a position where it's not going to matter how good you are at it. It's going to be a bottom line question. They can hire in chatbots, and AI agents aren't limited by hiring. They're on a system. They're in the cloud somewhere. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it's going to be a lot cheaper than hiring people. So that's the article from Fortune. I really thought this was eye-opening. I had no idea it was that bad for new grads. That's really terrifying. And like I said, it's just going to be exacerbated, and it's going to get harder. I thought we had it hard as millennials. I'm looking back on it now. I'm like, well, at least I had a job lined up. I've always been able to find work. It wasn't the best work always. It wasn't always a situation where, oh man, I'd kiss the ground whenever I got the job, but I would have an opportunity to get full-time work. And the fact that we're heading towards this situation where AI is going to cut into so much of that demand for a workforce, I really think Gen Z is going to have to step up and really get creative. Like the two anecdotes they had here, get creative, but on a large scale and in an entrepreneurial sense. Get on a situation where, you know, you have to think outside the box every day. You have to think outside the box in terms of business plan. You got to think outside the box in terms of what's the market demanding and how do I fill a niche, you know? So, good article. Like I said, that was on Fortune. It was written by Emma Burley. I'll include the link in the description. But what do y'all think? I mean, do we have any Gen Z viewers? Are you guys struggling to find work? Is the workforce that you're heading into seem good or bad? Does it seem like it has a positive outlook or a negative outlook? To me, it looks rough. Things look really rough, and I don't think the powers that be are making it any easier to find work. I would hope that we could get back to the days someday of a federal jobs program, or if we actually really wanted to reinvest in that infrastructure, like there would be jobs. There would be plenty of jobs. And where I'm living, the job market is not good. That's all there is to it. Southern Oregon is a pretty terrible job market, to be honest, if I'm being perfectly fair. It's just a situation where, yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts below about this job market and how fresh grads are just getting the short end of the stick, full stop. So thanks so much for tuning in.